this point. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. And their justification was, well, wartime posture, we have to support our NATO ally in Ukraine, and so we are fully justified in crushing American conversations and idea sharing and stuff like that. That was the justification for it. Stupidest shit I ever heard. See what else we got. Are the corporations USAID was protecting going to evacuate these countries soon? I do not know what the forecast of that is. Those corporations, there's a lot of shell corporations. I think Ian Carroll pointed out Cheminox. You should probably look those guys up. They're a nothing company, so they're a company that handles communication, logistics, and talent acquisition, and just all the basic stuff to maintain, large scale communications and stuff like that. Um, there's a lot of corporations that are funded by USAID in America. There's tons of them, and for one reason or another, they get that. Facebook caught a bunch of it. Um, some of the influencers on the so-called alt-right got money. Charlie Kirk got money from USAID somehow. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like it's pretty ridiculous. They just dumped their money where they could, because they were running influence ops, right? They were just running influence ops on the American operation, on the American people. So, and they got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. That was inevitable. We all knew this was inevitable. It's just like who had the balls to actually call it out. Big balls Trump, apparently. So, let's see what else. Got to drop in a few. Okay. Uh, my name says I am a muse. As a muse, I like to listen to other muses. I love how they call it USAID. You know who knows and how, and love that. USAID is only the beginning. That's right, Tori. It's only the beginning because that's the one thread you pull, and the whole fabric can very easily get revealed, and we'll see that the emperor truly has no clothes. Are the corporations? No, let's see. How many news organizations will go under? What the fuck, sir? Yes. So, I believe USAID around the dawn of the Trump era, they trained 70,000 journalists to conduct influence operations on the internet against American interests and American citizens. 70,000. They funded 4,000 news organizations through an outfit called Internews, which you should look them up. They're a big player in that. And they just, every crazy headline you ever saw about basically everything social justice, literally every single thing social justice, came from these guys. So what that tells you is that the left in America has absolutely zero ground support whatsoever, and they never had it. They never had it this entire time. That's a crazy thing to think about, because we see what they're doing, but they weren't doing it. They didn't even exist. It was just news articles being pumped in everyone's face, being directed by the algorithm. Everybody believing that leftists were everywhere, revolutionizing everything, making you want to suck tranny dick. But that was just them exploiting the news infrastructure. There was no left in America. There is no groundswell, huge boost of left in America. There's like the professional class left, the people who work corporate rooms and doctors and that type of stuff, but that's not the rank and file American. That just doesn't exist. So like the left realizing the Americans did not support them at all under any circumstances, they called all their buddies in USAID to basically create a fake revolution. And USAID knows how to do that. That's all USAID does is create fake revolutions. And the left thought it was like a validation of their right side of history addiction. So, boy, they're gonna have a tough time coming out of that days for sure. Were YouTubers, streamers coerced into the NAFO thing? Of course, coerced. I mean, some were coerced. When it came to coercion on YouTubes and streamers, the best way to coerce them is like the copyright strike and hit them with lawfare and demonetize them and stuff like that. That's a form of coercion. A lot of the NAFO people, I'm pretty sure they got some USAID funding, and they were just they were just out there running influence operations to justify NATO's position in Ukraine, which they couldn't do. So they basically spent all their time blaming Russia for everything. which of course they could because Russia literally invaded Ukraine. So it's an easy thing to do. Let's see what else we got here. How much money is getting distributed? I covered that. How many years? What event? What is the most damaging program socially and monetary to the average internet user? Just the censorship regime. The censorship regime was out of control insane between 2014 and today. Like literally insane. That was the most damaging thing because my people got fucked by it. My 4chan people got fucked by it. The other things I was running got fucked by it. Um, my support in DC got fucked by it. I got fucking annihilated by these guys. Completely annihilated. Let's see. What else we got here? Going to the next question. If you could surmise, what do you see as potential blowback from shutting down USAID? Oh boy. Oh boy. Potential blowback. Oh boy. Well, they tried to shoot Trump, so that's on the table apparently. They're already doing hit pieces on 19-year-olds, saying, "Oh, these 19-year-olds are running government." Tell these people how old the founding fathers were when they established this country, right? They were like 19, 21, some young dudes. And we draft 19-year-olds. I mean, we don't do drafts anymore, but we used to. And when we did, we drafted 19-year-olds, no problem. So if we can give like a 19-year-old a gun to go shoot some brown people overseas, surely you can draft a 19-year-old to go after these fucking retards. Surely, right? It's not that hard. Let's see what else we got here. Oop. Discover more. These are some good questions. This is hence the resistance of voter ID. Exactly. That's right. That's right. Yeah, these are really good questions. You're showing me what you're interested in the USAID story, and I like that. That's good. That allows me to tailor it to make it more relevant when we run these things. So this is really good. These are really good examples, good questions. I like them. And if you got more, just keep them coming, man. Just keep them coming. All right, we got some people on the table. We're gonna bring what the fucks are up. Let's go. Speaker. All right, man. You're up. What it do? Okay, well, don't say.
Oh, sorry. It took me a minute to grab it. I was like, oh crap. So yeah, no, I think, going back to what you're saying about the lack of support. I think the next few years will be very interesting, especially if they push for Elon and Trump pushing for voter ID. If that gets pushed, at least for federal elections, I think we'll truly see like the legitimate, voter totals finally. And Democrats will be out in the woods for a long time.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility. I suspect politics is very reactive. People don't know what they care about until the people they hate do it, and then they take the opposite side of it. It's kind of how it swings. So I expect a little flash in the pan from the left saying, "Oh, you're taking away our most. You're letting people starve. You're stopping AIDS treatments." Okay, let's talk AIDS treatments and USAID. Okay, let's talk about HIV research done in the 90s under USAID. You really want to go down that road? You want to talk about saving babies? Okay, let's talk about the 400,000 Indians who died to Bill Gates using USAID money. You want to talk about saving babies? Okay, let's talk about that. So they're gonna,
How about
yeah,
Haiti?
fucking when the Haiti bubble gets popped, it's going to be bedlam for sure. And I know a
Oh,
little
with
bit about that. And if I knew more, I wouldn't say anything because if it's as bad as I think it is, then I'm not going to be the one to say it. Someone braver than I has to touch that subject.
oh, come on.
You know.
Hillary already called me a snot nosed brat, so I'm on her shit list.
Wait,
Fucking cunt.
Hillary requested to speak. Oh no! All right, guys, space
Uh
over.
oh.
Oh
Nice
shit.
knowing you all. Bang.
um,
Gonna
yeah.
commit suicide with two to the back of the head, surprisingly.
Yeah. So USAID has its hand in every pie because they're the coordinating body, and when you're the coordinating body, all the responsibility falls on you, buddy. So you're the infrastructure. You're it. So going after USAID is a bold, ballsy move. It really is a shortcut to the end. What happens to the American left psyche after this? I can wax philosophical on that for hours. I am an ex-Marxist. I repeatedly state this every time. There are few disciplines of Marxism that are anti-central bank. They do exist. They're rare. You're never going to hear them. They're not sexy. They're very boring. They're very technical, but they do exist. But there's not a lot of them. I came from that camp, and naturally that leads to things like libertarianism, Ron Paul, stuff like that, and then you keep going. And Ron Paul is like the only person I know in Congress who even mentioned the petrodollar. I don't know anybody else who ever brought that up, like ever, never brought it up. I was like, whoa, this guy's actually talking about the stuff we used to talk about. Holy shit! So that was a fun little off ramp for me. I'm an ex-Marxist, right? So it's still a toolkit I use to examine, but the philosophy behind it's garbage. The projections it makes is garbage. Its methodology of analysis is situational at best. So it's just a tool at this point. It's not a personality. Um, and that that kind of well, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about USAID some more. Anyway, going to bring on someone else. We're going to go for CICDJTQ plus salute. Let's go. What's up, acronyms? Yeah, probably went to the bathroom. Going to bring up. This isn't real. I believe we've spoken before, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, outstanding. I'm so happy that this is being talked about, and it is amazing to me to see it all go down. Tori shined a light on this space, and I was like, I'm going to come here because if Tori's here, that's why I'm here. So I would
You're, of
surely like to just say thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
course. Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate the interest. And hopefully getting some good feedback and just understanding, putting a name and understanding the infrastructure that has been driving so much craziness in American discourse and American awareness, even our ability to relate to one another. Being able to identify that monster is like a very, very valid first step, very important first step. Um,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I am getting good feedback. I got a buddy who I've been kind of trying to educate, and he is catching on, and now he's starting to get on fire. I'm really glad, and people like even my parents, they're starting to snap out of it, and it
yeah,
might be hard for them and everything like that. And I know a lot of people probably might have someone like that. And so I'm going to stand in agreement in prayer for, you guys all to be able to handle that situation with grace, and that God can do the magic that he needs to do
yeah.
through, and so I stand in agreement in Jesus' name, amen.
Absolutely, man. And I want to stress as we learn more and more about this stuff, there is plenty of blame to go around. As a stranger on the internet, most of you have met for probably the second time. I would recommend having patience with your loved ones because once you understand just how thorough you say it is, you realize you can't even blame your loved ones anymore for having like ridiculous opinions or like being combative or being confused, because that's USAID's job. That is their job to take a population and just annihilate their comprehension of stuff.
And just to add on to that, cognitive dissonance.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
loved ones are
Yeah,
going to have it. They're going to react violently, angrily. Um, look up look up strategies for dealing with cognitive dissonance.
yeah.
I'm dealing with it myself. I had an argument about the 14th Amendment, and it was stated to me that the first four words count, not the rest of the sentence or the rest of
Oh,
the
okay. I
amendment.
didn't know we were playing that game.
And the cognitive dissonance was bad. was bad. And, highly educated people fall victim to it the
Right.
easiest.
Yeah.
When propaganda campaigns start, they do not go after the low middle class whatsoever.
Yeah.
Why? The lower class's bullshit detector is off the charts compared
Yeah.
to upper class, highly educated people.
Absolutely.
Highly educated people fall victim to credentialisms.
Yeah.
Ooh, they have a degree. They must know what they're talking about, and turn off that critical thinking part of their brain.
Yeah.
The low class, the
100%.
poor,
Yeah.
the poor's, the normies. Oh, I don't give a fuck. You have a degree. Fuck off.
Yeah. Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, So, remember, propaganda campaigns are designed to go after the highly educated in a population.
Yeah.
That is what.
And you see that primarily with the left. The left is the overeducated cast of America, and they were the target audience of USAID. USAID targeted them exclusively, and it worked. It was like it just built foot soldiers like you wouldn't believe, a factory of foot soldiers. It's the same shit you see when we need to do soft policy, when we need to do soft power on a nation. Um, that what you see happen to liberals in America is what we do to countries all over the world for decades. We've been doing this to other countries for decades, and now liberals got a taste of it, and they were the front and center audience of target. You create cohorts, you create your foot soldiers first, and then you go after your enemies. That's usually the order of operation. And liberals fell for it, and they built their entire personality off it. God knows how many of them became gay, right? Like you can't unsuck a dick. It's just like they just fell for it, and then they did the action, and then they just kept doing the action because why not? And they started cutting off their dick next, and it's just like how far can you push it? Apparently, you can push it infinitely far. And so,
See,
but yeah, the left is they're toast for a while. They're gonna flail. Um, you can gloat if you want. I can't tell you how to do your relationships with people, but there is a certain cohort of these people who are true believers who will never ever recover from this mess that they've been put into. Uh, there are special
think
ways to deal with those people,
hardcore
though.
Mormon or Christian.
What's that?
Like, uh, to the truly dedicated, to the true believers, this is their religion.
Yeah, it's their religion for sure.
If you've ever dealt with, a born again Christian or a hardcore Mormon or whichever ones knock at your doors,
Yeah,
it is your. Remember, you're attacking their belief system
yep,
when you point out the truth.
yep. And
These
USAID
people.
and USAID created their religion for them, and they never knew it. None of these people who fell for it ever invented the ideology that they succumbed to. They had no contribution to it whatsoever. It was delivered to them on a silver platter. They ate it like it was a restaurant, and then they became it, and that was it. So it became their identity uh, since Clinton, since Obama, arguably since before Reagan. They've been doing this shit for a long time, man.
It's their addiction. They mainline it harder than heroin.
Yeah, and it's easy to do when the cost of reaching people through the internet just continues to drop year after year, so you can just get more and more cohorts in. So the reaction was always going to be ugly. It was always going to be a mess. Um, there was no clean way to decouple. There is no clean way to undo what you say does to a country. There's no clean solution. It is
I,
always a brutal crawl out from the hole.
it seems to me that Elon buying Twitter/X, whatever, really threw they did not see that happening. They had no contingency for that. They never thought, oh crap, the world's richest man just decided to buy one of our main messaging sources.
Yeah, he didn't buy Reddit, if you noticed that. Just saying. Would have been a hell of a lot cheaper. Yeah.
And of a hell of a lot smaller audience.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, yeah. This isn't real. What's up, man? You're weapons free. Or not. Okay. Let's see what new questions we got. Remember, we're exploring how to present the history of USAID. because I'm going to do a whole bunch of spaces for newcomers who are here. It's going to be a series of spaces done over time with actual people who worked at actual USAID, because I know a lot of them, and they're eager to tell their story. So the questions, if you got a question about that, just go ahead and put a comment, like anything you want to know, and I'm going to incorporate it in the content schedule. I'm going to figure out how to present it and stuff like that. So all these questions are definitely going to be read, considered, and brought into the content for sure. All right, Devinder, USAID and IMF are partners that work together on development projects. Development, you didn't put quotes around development projects, sir. What would be a good dig to into how this amplifies the effort? Oh yeah, so the IMF. I always have my eyes on the IMF. So IMF, International Monetary Fund. Look those guys up. Real interesting group of people. Um, I call them the war bank. So like you might have heard of like an economic hitman. You send him into a country, blows it up. That's IMF stuff. And part of the IMF gives loans to countries, and countries have to pay it back. How do you get a country to pay back a loan? Well, it's very similar to how do you get a human to pay back a loan. You call them, you annoy them, you harass them, you threaten stuff, you threaten litigation. Maybe you got to kneecap them, right? Same thing with a country. How do you get a country to pay up? Well, you send your economic hitmen. You send USAID. They come in and they fuck your country up at the epistemic level, at the communication level, at the propaganda level. You can't even command your people anymore. And then you tap out and you pay your loan. Or if you don't tap out, they overthrow you. They install the people they want. They crush the people, and then they pay the loan. The IMF always gets their money, one way or another. So USAID and IMF, they are definitely overlapped pretty fucking hard, for sure. Let's see some more questions.
Let's be real, they're pretty much the same organization.
At this point, probably. Well, let's say they're vertically integrated, right? Let's see. Seems like the CAA Creative Artists Agency runs the purse strings of USAID. Oh boy, Shell, you should talk more about that if you know anything. Because I know a lot about Hollywood. I spent a lot of time there. CAA and USAID? I might be able to dig up some stuff on that. That would be very, very fun. Let's see what else we got. No, I already covered that. More questions.
Isn't that kind of funny? Um, Elon's fork in the road is really kind of coming true now.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I don't think people realize like this moment will be talked about in history books coming in future generations. Your grandchildren, great grandchildren will be reading about this time in history.
Definitely about this
And
time for sure. I don't know if they'll be
yeah,
able to identify prime cause movers of things that happened during this time, but this time is going to have, well, assuming that the future isn't full of AIs that intentionally go to war with each other and intentionally give each other amnesia so they can't remember stuff. That's a possibility. Um, Assuming there is ability to even view the history from the future, then yeah, this period is going to be very tumultuous for sure.
I'm just kind of curious how it's going to because I mean the left will fight back,
Of course,
but
they're
it
going to fight
seems
back.
like the right. I mean, here's the problem with this whole entire what happens. The left takes. The right just gives, rolls over, gives, rolls over until it gets to the point where it's, well, now let's let the bodies hit the floor.
Right. Like I said,
And
there's no easy exit for a country that's been USAIDed. There's just no easy exit.
yeah,
There's just no way. I mean, they designed their attack vectors to be difficult to reverse engineer. It's like pulling a barbed arrow out of you after they put it in you. It's going to be painful on the way out too.
but AI does have the ability, I would say, or now or in the future to help with that.
It can, for sure. There is definitely a lot there. And eventually we'll get into how USAID goes into medical research and genomics and how that ties into AI and how that ties into GPU economics. But that's like a super sophisticated. We'll tiptoe our way there for sure. Let me bring another person on stage. Ludovici. What's up? Welcome to stage. Well, everyone's gun shy on the first go. I get it. All right. I think we got more comments. Let's see what we got. Do 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 do. How much money? Man, I wish it was recorded. I'd like to ask. Sorry for the silence. I'm just going over some of these comments. Actually, you know what? I'll have a better chance seeing it on another machine. One moment, folks.
Ooh, that United Fruit comment. That's
United Fruit. Oh boy.
you know about that history,
Of course I
right?
do.
And bringing that one up, that does kind of feel like the genesis of this crap.
It is where. So USAID is supposed to be an apparatus of DoD, and foreign policy, but at some point, private actors start getting involved and you go, "Can we use it too?" The answer is yes, of course you can. So now you have corporations rolling in and being like, "Hey, we'd like to use this country overthrowing mechanism. Let's do it to juice our bottom line." Happens all the time, folks. Happens all the time. Was USAID involved in North Ireland troubles? Yes, probably. I would not be surprised if they. I'm pretty sure that that's one of those wedge conditions. Now, to be fair, um, Ireland and the UK have a long spat dating back centuries, but because of that, it's one of those wedges where you can just kind of like park your operation in and just totally exploit. USAID most likely would have done that. Most likely. That's the problem with this organization because everything's so hidden and everything's so shadowy. It's very easy to attribute stuff to them that they may not have done, but there's no way to prove they didn't do it. So they can just become like a collective boogeyman. And half the accusations are probably right.
I'd say three quarters.
Yeah, right. Looking for possible solutions and preventions of future issues. Do we prohibit NGOs from receiving taxpayer money? Ooh.
Constitutional amendment.
I'm looking 3 steps down the line on that. So if you say prohibition, NGOs, no more taxpayer dollars, bang, fuck you, no more, right? NGOs go, oh no, we just lost our welfare. And then they go, I guess we're going to have to raise our money through crypto. Wah, wah, wah. So if there's any crypto bros in here, if you want to goose the numbers and get a very if you want to see a $200,000 Bitcoin price, just forbid NGOs from getting taxpayer money, and crypto goes to the moon, goes straight.
Can you imagine the pump and dumps on that when people realize, oh, we can hit them back?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Like, oh yeah, Mr. NGO, yeah, you got that $500 million war chest.
right.
Oh wait, that coin's now worth a penny.
Right.
Haha.
And that's kind of one of the like I've treated Bitcoin as a thermometer for clandestine operations personally, because you would not believe how many people are funding their operations through that shit. It is fucking fascinating. But you can actually monitor instability in countries just from like the trade volume of Bitcoin alone. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. Let's see. Was Howard Hughes involved with USAID? Probably. Howard Hughes was. Uh, he was with the Rocket Boys. He was with the aviation people, so USAID might have touched it, but he was dealing a lot with Mormons, and Mormons do missionary work, and the way they do missionary work bypasses the State Department. So if you want to attach your envoys to a Mormon missionary, you can do it, and you don't have to actually file it with the State Department. So like maybe, possibly that one I don't know the answer to, but it's a good one. I'll have to look that one up. How much money is getting distributed? Covered that. Where's the next battle going to be? Next
That
battle is going to
sounds like
be.
a loophole to me.
Oh yeah, but it's loopholes in loopholes in loopholes. That's USAID, baby. That's all they do.
Yeah,
It's
we
loopholes.
need to patch those loopholes up now.
Good, good luck. There's a
Elon
lot of them.
Musk, how are we going to do this?
Yeah,
We
it's
need super glue or something. Fix.
at this point you probably need a blowtorch to
Build
fill
the
them with the.
wall. Build the wall.
There's a lot of loopholes, and every time you try to patch one loophole, you create another one. So it's an ongoing game of cat and mouse. Not to say you shouldn't do anything, but that's a pragmatic reality. would be great to record these spaces. No,
Is
I do
that
not.
is that what they were talking? Is that what the separation of church and state have
No,
It's
anything?
never
no.
been a thing in our Constitution. It's only mentioned in fucking letters.
Yeah, even
Oh,
then,
God, I hate when people. Ah,
separation of church and state's mostly a European concept after the 30-year war. I know
yeah.
that. I know
Okay,
that.
that's not good, but
Well,
yeah.
even then, like you set up an NGO, and you say no taxpayer funding for NGOs, and they say, okay, well, a church is a non-government organization, and they have plenty of funding, and so
Yeah,
like,
NGO operating like that, that's got to be stopped.
yeah, well, I mean, stopping it's a tough one. This
Yeah.
is This is this is all coming from the need for the United States to maintain an infinite foreign presence. That's the driving motive. That's really it. So like even if you
I,
plug it all up, the United States still has to maintain a foreign presence. So it's like it's even if you cure one side of it and you get a couple years where the craziness goes down, but the craziness always goes back up because the fundamental motive is just still there. That's the problem.
We're gonna have
the,
to get Grok to look into that.
Yeah. Uh,
I think the one way to go after NGOs, at least in the current legal framework, I think, the Al Capone style.
right.
You know what? Remove their charitable organization status, make them susceptible to taxes and
Yeah.
audits.
Yeah. I mean, I
Done
mean,
within a year.
definitely there is a chilling effect that can be applied where you go after the 5% most egregious violators in USAID and you just hammer them. You just hammer them like there is no chance of them recovering. You put their heads on pikes, a good 5% of them. That'll terrify the other 95% for a time, maybe one generation. Maybe you might be able to do something with that window. Possible. It's worth at least trying because everything else has been failing pretty fucking miserably. Um, let's see. Where's the next battle going to be? The next battle was the last battle, and it's going to be the next battle after that. It's your mind, it's your brain, it's your perception of reality, it's your interpretation, it's your morality, it's how you perceive yourself, it's how you perceive your family, it's your epistemics, it's your concept of knowledge, it's your discipline with cognition. That's always the space. That's always the space with these people.
Can I ask you something on that
Yes,
actually?
sir.
So we have a friend who habitually checks Reddit and reads the first comment for response for whatever we're talking about in our group chat. He's still doing this. We can even check Reddit ahead of time to know what he's going to say. How do you fix somebody like this? He thinks his friends are these shadows who don't exist. We're his real friends, and he thinks we're his enemies. Like, how do you even fix this?
Yeah, right. So like the monkeys are using the machine and the machine is convincing them that other monkeys exist. Um how do you fix that? Oh,
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
4chan fixed that in my opinion. It's a radical thing to say, but I still hold to this day that 4chan contained the smartest human beings I ever met. And the reason I say that is because 4chan knew that the internet didn't matter. They just knew it. It was like not my personal army or not your personal army, and you're pissing in an ocean of piss and you're here forever. These memes that came out of that space, it was an acknowledgement that the internet doesn't matter. And I always like that stance because it doesn't. The internet literally doesn't matter. It's just humans communicating with each other. That's the internet. The internet itself isn't a thing. Like when people say God doesn't exist, I'll say, all right, well, point to a single thing that shows me the internet exists. Physically exists. They point at our phone. I say, no, that's a phone. That's not the internet. The internet doesn't physically exist. So when these people are looking into the mirror, the internet these days is a psychological mirror of yourself. So you look into it and you go, oh, what's going on in the world? You're not learning what's going on in the world. You're only learning what you're capable of processing about the world. And your friend is in a boat with a lot of people where they see the internet as a proxy for reality and they see it as a potential space that can be used to solve their problems. People think the internet is like a friend on demand button. Like, what is the threat of canceling? The threat of canceling is that you say something on the internet and a sudden mob is going to appear that you can't even predict, and it's going to fuck your life up. Right? There's going to be humans that don't even exist you've never met who have a deep interest in ruining you. That's what canceling means. Well, the inverse is also true, where people look at that canceling mechanism and they say, "Boy, I wish I had that weapon. Then I could solve all my political problems." Everybody falls for that trap. Everybody falls for it.
The internet is one giant psyop.
Yeah, it's one giant psyop. It's a perpetual psyop. It's only a psyop if you believe that you can use the internet to win your political battles. That's the only time it becomes a psyop. But if you know that the internet is shit and it doesn't matter and it's all fucking pissing in an ocean of piss, it can't affect you. So it sounds like your friend might be harboring a secret revenge fantasy and he intends to use the internet to fulfill it. Which is to say, you're never going to persuade him otherwise.
However, there are some tactics to get them to hopefully question their beliefs. Point
Even
out
then,
the small hypocrisies.
I mean, look at the cost. Look at the cost of that. So think of how much money and time it takes you to convince a person not to believe in dumb shit, and then think of the cost and money it takes someone hired in the Philippines by USAID to just bombard a person with bullshit. It's not even comparable. Like you let's say you make like $20 an hour, $50 an hour, and you need to spend 200 hours convincing your friend he's wasting his time versus the Vietnamese Cambodian information worker who's just dumping article after article, just winding them up. I mean, the cost isn't even remotely comparable. It's from an economic standpoint, it's a war of attrition, and you're going to lose. So you can't cure these people. They don't have the immune system, and at this point, I'm just treating it like a eugenics process. At this point, if you can't survive the internet, you don't deserve to exist in the future. At this point, because it is too expensive for me to run around and actually solve these people.
I feel that way, but how do you acknowledge that without becoming so wrathful that it consumes you?
Like I said, you do the 4chan thing. You just kind of step back and say it's all a Nietzschean abyss at the end. Because if you try to apply morality to the end of it, you're just going to drive yourself insane. Because all you're going to see is just people getting bamboozled left, right, and center. And yeah, that is true. That is what's happening. But what the fuck are you going to do about it, man? Like, it's like, what are you going to do, right?
Do you get like upset when like a bear eats a deer in the woods? Look at it that
No,
way.
I would be fascinated if a bear looked at a mirror and then expected an army of bears to come rescue that bear. That would be an interesting experiment. And that's how humans treat the internet. They just think that there's an invisible army of friends. If you just put the right combination of words in a tweet, you'll summon a revolution on demand. Like Americans genuinely believe that, and that's been sold to them. That's the allure of cancel culture. The idea of a revolution if you play Sudoku with your words well enough. You don't have to have discipline or moral discipline or focus or any type of infrastructure backing or any type of connections. The classic way of doing revolution. Oh, that's too much work. I need my revolution now. I need my revolution to be like fast food, where I just like tweet a thing and then everybody shows up and I win the war and Obama and I win. And that's been the Democrats' entire platform since Magic Black Man became president. Like, they have not changed their tune one bit. And I have no interest in curing these people because they can't be. That's not how USAID work. USAID does not create curable patients. USAID creates terminally broken people that cannot
So they're
be
just
cured.
casualties.
They're just fucking casualties. It sucks, but USAID doesn't make mistakes like that. They don't make this shit reversible.
Pat, if you had 5 people under your control, where would you attack with those 5 people?
I only need one. I already did my attack. That's already lined up. You can look up blackmail inflation. My attack is done. My days of being a revolutionary are over at this point. I did my job. So
They don't call it mind control for nothing.
right,
Definitely.
yeah. And even then, calling it mind control is still a bit of a misnomer because it leaves open the possibility that you can like deprogram these people. You can't. USAID does not make mistakes like that. They just don't.
You have to go for the next generation. They're a lost generation.
Exactly.
If you know kids in your personal life, every chance you get, tell them the government is bullshit. Always question everything. I mean, it really is you have to go for the next generation. As cynical and heartless as that sounds, you just
Yep.
do.
Yep. Thankfully, breeding is alive and well. So there's always a next generation somewhere.
That's a
So
fact. I
it
was
sucks.
told when I was a young kid by my dad that was a non-vet, and I looked up to him and wanted to join the military when I got older. And he said, "Nah, you don't want to do that." But he said further, he said, "It's all bullshit." And I went, "What?" I couldn't understand what the hell he said that for, but I do now.
Yeah. The most anti-war faction I've ever met in my life in America were veterans.
Damn fucking straight.
Yeah. What's your take on the role of NGOs in facilitating illegal immigration, particularly through shelter and services per? Oh my God. Okay, so then you have to talk USAID and the Catholic Church. I don't want to do that now because that's like its own space. So we'll definitely put a pin in that one and we'll address it for sure. That's coming.
I'll make sure I'm there for that one. I have some words about that.
Was there a strategy on how USAID spread its tentacles, or was it more a matter of opportunity, the path of least resistance? The tentacles spread because of the mandate of foreign presence, of U.S. foreign presence. That mandate is a powerful commanding mandate. It's the basic mandate for all of globalism, all global trade. Um, Matthew Perry Matthew Perry from Friends showing up in Japan, forcing, yeah. Commodore Perry rolls up in Japan and says, "Hey, you will trade or we will shoot you." Right? That's we are a nation that is deeply reliant on global trade. Always have been, and uh, and so that forces Americans to understand other cultures and understand their languages, their belief systems, their religions, their economies, how they operate. We have to take a deep stance in all that stuff because our entire economy is dependent on foreign consumers and foreign producers. So, how does USAID spread its tentacles? Well, when your mandate is like we have to maintain our global empire for our economy, it's not just USAID spreading its tentacles; it's Wall Street, it's CIA, State Department, it's um, it's everything. It's culture. Everything spreads its tentacles because the mandate is we are deeply reliant on global economy. We always have been. I mean, where did we get our workers from when this country first got started? We got them from Africa. And what were we doing? We were making cotton and selling it to Europe. We've always been like a global oriented country, always since the inception. So, because of that motive, the tentacles spread because the profit is so extreme. Once you capture a market, the profits just pour way the fuck in, way the fuck in. So it's kind of one of those things that just kind of self reproduces. So it's just the profit motive is too powerful. What did you do? No, I already addressed that. I am 17 years old and I have a degree in computer science. I'm thinking of applying to work at Doge. Have any advice? Yeah. Um, get ready to be doxxed, I guess, if you're okay with that. Have some anti-doxing. One of my favorite anti-doxing strategies is to control the information that's on you. So when people start doxing you, they don't lead back to you. It leads to someone you hate instead. So like I'll pick a random name from like an Antifa list, and I'll leave a trail when you search for me. It'll lead back to I'm actually this guy, but it's like an Antifa person, and so the left starts doxing their own instead. I always recommend that route. It's way better.
Oh yeah, I've done that. That's great.
Yeah, it's useful stuff. Applying for Doge, and you should give it a shot. Why not? We need more nerds in that space because it's going to be data heavy stuff. It's going to be a lot of data. AI can parse through all of the text for the first time in history, by the way. We've never been able to go through the entire body of federal government text, their documents, their missives, their notes, their memos. We've never had that capacity to do it. Now we do.
Do you
And
think
you are going to learn things that will give your career an incredible fucking boost. All you have to do is be a little scrupulous,
so
and
with
you'll be fine.
with Elon bringing in like AI and whatnot to go through all this stuff. I think that's freaking out the deep state.
It is massively.
Because, I mean,
'Cause that,
that's going to pick up on the patterns real fucking quick.
oh yeah, you'll see shit that people swore they hid. I've seen AI unredact documents, black lines through like pages, and AI can reconstruct the missing text. It's just incredible. So all secrets are going to get found, and AI is going to do it. And these motherfuckers are terrified. Terrified.
Because it's not them with the A controlling the AI, it's going to be Elon.
Yeah, and not just Elon, but he's going to share it out because he blabs everything he gets. That motherfucker cannot keep a secret, so he gets a hold of it. It's just going out there, and he has a whole ass platform called Twitter to share it out there. He's going to blab it to everybody. So,
Uh-huh.
Ludovici, you should apply to Doge. As a CS person, you're going to learn a lot of LLMs. You're going to learn a lot of AI stuff. Keep an open mind and get a work ethic behind you because Elon will work you like a motherfucking slave because he works everybody that way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that sounds
you will learn some shit. You will get connected with people who are going places. You will have a very interesting career for the next 15 years after that if you can land that job.
well. Thank you for the words, Mr. Ryan.
Of course,
Very helpful.
yeah, no problem.
And make sure to keep your morals and your ethics. Like they will be very tempted all throughout that run.
They will be tested hard for sure. Let's see what else we got here. Is USAID used for anything good? Arguably, yes. They do antagonize our allies and our foreign enemies equally, and they keep everyone in line to a degree. But technically, that can be done with AI. So we don't even need that anymore. You can technically privatize that activity if you really wanted to do it, and you probably have better results. So
Even if they nuke USAID, it's coming back. They're just going to bring it back and think they gave it enough guardrails this time.
right, it's folded under State Department right now, so that's under Rubio, and it's one of those weapons that when you touch it, you go, "This is an incredible weapon," and it's kind of hard to sheathe once you've drawn it. But I think the proper destruction of USAID is where private OSINT research analyst teams can come in, powered by AI, and basically do the fomentation that USAID was doing. Because that need for soft power is there. America has, I think, 3 million revolutionaries on its roster scattered throughout the world. When I say revolutionaries, I mean people that every nation has people that they like and it has people they don't like. So people they outlaw and people they prefer. We deal with those outlaws and we keep a little Bunsen burner on them. We go, oh, we're going to keep you warm. Here's a little bit of money to keep you afloat, keep you going for a little bit. And then when it comes time to have that revolution that person believes in his heart of hearts is true, USAID cranks up the heat, throws him all the support, the logistics, the information, the weapons, everything he needs to go launch it. He wins, he loses, it doesn't matter because there's 10 more people just like him. He just didn't know that. So that type of like revolutionary roster management, yeah, USAID does that really well, but technically anybody can do that. So it's like AI can do that, right? I mean, I don't need an overeducated college liberal out there with that weapon deciding to point it at my family like they did over the last 10 years. So fucking moral fail on their part.
I think both me and you know that one way too well.
Yeah, a little bit too well. Speaking of Mormons, how did Cordell Anderson and his biological warfare operation in Guatemala? I don't know anything about that, Feral Freedom. I will look into it. I don't know a damn thing about that. How many people have been yeah, already addressed that. Other corporations evacuated, addressed. Here are some House representatives and senators who have been notably connected to USAID activities. Let's go. Let's name some names. Janine Shaheen, ranking member of U.S. Senate Foreign Relations. Brian Schatz, part of the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on State Foreign Operations and Related Programs. Chris Van Hollen, involved in oversight and has spoken publicly regarding USAID policies. Tim Kaine, Cory Booker, Chris Murphy, Chris Coons, members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee who have shown interest in USAID's operations. Mark Warner has participated in discussions regarding USAID's funding and operations. Representatives, we have Gregory W. Meeks, ranking member of U.S. Foreign Affairs Committee. Louis Frankel, ranking member of U.S. House Appropriations Subcommittee on National Security, Department of State. Gerald E. Conley, Don Bayer, Ilhan Omar. Oh boy. She got here from USAID. I believe she admitted she got here through USAID. Jesus Christ, guys. John Garamendi has issued statements regarding USAID's dissolutions plans. Yep. Yeah. Senate and Foreign Intelligence, Foreign Affairs, those type of boards and committees, they know what USAID is. It's their bread and butter. They know. They know. They don't talk about it, but they know. What USAID-like organizations exist across the world? Yeah, there's plenty of USAID-like organizations, not at the scale of USAID, but historically speaking, Jesuits were very similar in that regard. The British had their version of USAID during the first pass of liberalism.
The Dutch East Indies?
What's that?
The Dutch East India Company?
Yeah, they relied on that pretty heavily. Yeah, whenever you have a nation that has a significant global presence, there's always something like USAID in its footsteps. So that's going to be things like the Catholic Church, the British Empire, the American Empire. The Soviets had something similar to USAID. They called it Comintern back then, and it morphed into a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's running around too, by the way. The Soviets have their version of USAID. And then the overlap between USAID and the Soviets at the end of the Cold War, that's how we get George Soros. So yeah, whenever you have a nation that has global interests, something like USAID will inevitably spawn and start conducting operations.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL wasn't funded by USAID. That'd sure make it look like a puppy bowl to me.
You know what? Let's give it a go. I'm going to go to datarepublican.com and I'm just going to look it up. Football.
Thank you. Yeah, good idea.
University of Washington, contribution of repetitive head impacts and social determinants of health to Alzheimer's diseases related to dementia in older adult black men. $2 million.
Wow.
Cognitive impairment.
That sounds like the NFL to me.
Part of it. Let me search again. Risk for risk for later life cognitive impairment, neurobehavioral dysregulation, and dementia in former soccer and American football players. $3 million. Risk and resilience, clinical presentation, and biomarker profiles of chronic traumatic encephalopathy and related dementias. No, that's not too close. A football field will be constructed in Onsosopo Park. The football field will have a restroom for both men and women. American Samoa Government Department for Parks and Rec, $3.2 million. National Football League, augmentation of the concussion assessment, research and education, $7.2 million. That's the Henry M. Jackson Foundation for the Advancement of Military Medicine.
Wow.
Let's see what else we got here. So yeah, I mean, NFL can possibly be a recipient for this because they are constantly exposed to head trauma. And if you look at the survival rates of military affairs these days, usually the body counts in American warfare are pretty astronomical until the Iraq War, when our field medics got really good and our technology got good and our understanding of integrated forces got really good. And so people didn't die in the disastrous numbers that they used to in military conflicts waged by America. You had a lot more people coming back with like maiming, wounding, and tons of head injuries. Fucking tons of head injuries. So some egghead probably say, hey, we can do parallel studies in the NFL because they have tons of head injuries too. So it's kind of like a parallel control group, I guess.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that
NFL,
lines up perfectly. Yep.
Yeah, and so NFL definitely. I mean, I'm looking at NFL getting funding for that. So yeah, absolutely, that's a shoo-in.
Speaking of a lot more vets coming back, think of how much the prosthetics in general have improved in the past 20 years.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The materials are getting lighter. The flexibility and the range of motion is getting incredible. I mean, there are arguments being made in some corners of the internet where people would intentionally lob off their limbs and replace it with machines just so they can perform better in like competitive sports.
Honestly, it all comes down to power source and batteries.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the
Batteries and
only
stuff like that.
thing holding back bionic limbs right now.
Yeah, exactly. Very true. Very true. So yeah, I mean, there's all kind like this is just a fund where you rate it, and all you have to do is make a clever statement and say, "Hey, this relates to the military because of this," and then say, "Okay, here's some money, bro." That's it. You know, that's the on ramp to get people into the USAID web, and then that massive grant procurement and that massive money application buys you influence. It buys you people. It buys you connections in these universities and these initiatives in these sectors. And then you use that influence when you need it later. So while it is a grant, you are buying influence with it.
You got me all excited. I can't wait to see them commercials.
And if you really want to have some fun time, just look up abortion and the USAID federal grant. Just you know, if you don't want to sleep tonight, check that out.
Whoa, yeah, whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. Like it's crazy serious. So we are getting
Well,
good questions.
I
I'm
have a
loving it.
question.
Loving the participation. Yes, sir.
What do you think we'll see in Europe as all the NGOs have pulled out?
Mm. Europe has their own version of this type of outreach. They do use it. They do use USAID pretty considerably. USAID is a critical part of NATO operations. I know that the Russians are looking at this and going, but they've already banned uh, Soros, and the Russians are pretty good at rooting out a lot of USAID initiatives in Russia. I mean, they've been dealing with USAID for decades, so they know how to route them out. So the idea that if you ban USAID, then Russia wins, like the Russians have been handling USAID for decades. They've been killing their operatives pretty much consistently. So like that argument doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
But
the
um,
KGB pretty much use that for training purposes.
yeah, right. So like what happens in Europe, NATO has a heart attack basically, um, and then primarily that leads us to COVID, which is another conversation that I'll have at a later time because that's a deadly conversation. That's a super dangerous conversation.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking evil. So, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, these are some good questions. These are good. We got some 40 questions going on. I love it. This is all really good positive feedback. It lets me understand what you guys are interested in so I can actually cater to the content that's relevant to your interests. It's really good. It's been a success. Does USAID fund international multiple clerks? I don't know what that is. Probably. I don't know. Let's give it a go. IMC.